They still haven't yet, though.
They haven't yet? Oh, come on.
She keeps having dreams where, like, the demon version of him has sex with her. It's great. The
she
show is
married?
lit, Corey.
Is she still married?
Yeah.
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my bird.
Hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things vetted in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, it's like if Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors teamed up to make the best pop culture podcast of all time instead of, like, the third best Rocky movie.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I haven't seen it yet, but I just threw a number out there.
I haven't seen it yet either.
People love Rocky IV, right?
Ironically. Wait.
No, Rocky IV is the Russian one.
Yeah, ironically. It's not a good movie, but it's an entertaining as shit movie.
I thought people thought it was like...
No,
I don't like any of the Rocky movies, so I should just say that now.
Nobody can look me in the face and say
understand.
It's not a good movie. But it's a really fun movie.
To be honest, they all seem equally silly to me, except for was it Rocky Balboa? Rocky Balboa is a horrid film.
The first Rocky is actually a pretty, like, serious and well done, well written movie.
You know what it is? I think I can't take Sylvester Stallone seriously.
I think that might be your main problem then, right there, because he's an actual pretty central part to the series. Because
he's a big part of the Rocky.
It's called Rocky, you know. And in Creed, he's also Rocky.
I, for some reason, the other day watched Samaritan, his like superhero movie from last year.
Why?
I don't know. I just wanted to put a movie on that I didn't have to pay any attention to and didn't deserve any of my.
You gotta hit me up for those. You gotta hit me up for those stupid movies, man. I got plenty of movies I've been trying to get you to watch that are stupid as hell.
This was stupid as hell. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounded stupid.
It's like everything I sort of hate about the new kid as a plot point thing, where they're just
that's the thing. Like, it's not a new thing. They're trying to bring it back.
Yeah, I guess
I swear to God, it's like
feels like it's unavoidable right now.
It's like one or two producers is like, let's fucking do this again, and it's like it never works in the first place. Why are we doing this again?
Even when it's quote unquote good, I'm just not that into it. Like, we're gonna talk about the Mandalorian in a second, but all the TV right now seems to be Pedro Pascal walking a child around.
At least the children in his shows are entertaining.
Yes, yeah. I like Javon Walton, but he was great in Euphoria. He's not as great in Samaritan, I'll say that.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, is there a new character? And then Mandalorian, which just kind of somehow just missed out.
Listen, Corey, you're gonna have to do a lot of the heavy lifting on what's going on in the Mandalorian, because I don't know what's happening.
I'm really sorry I forgot to tell you about the prequel episode that you really should have watched.
I've turned it on. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's really unfair of them. They should have just tacked that. They really should have been like, watch this one episode of Boba Fett to kind of give you some like kind of perspective.
I think they probably assumed, rightly, that most of the people that made it to season 3 of Mandalorian have also watched all of the other Star Wars content.
At least Boba Fett, because he was a major character in the second part.
Yeah, I think I'm just an outlier. Like, I wouldn't have watched this episode if we didn't have a podcast. Like, I'm not. Yeah. I'm pretty checked out on the Mandalorian, to be honest. But that's okay. Before we jump into all that stuff, a couple of points of business as usual. Don't forget, follow us at Next Time On Pod on our social media platforms, including the YouTube channel, which you can go to youtube.com/@NextTimeOnPod. See all the great visual aspects of this podcast. Right now, this podcast you're listening to right now is up on YouTube. So go check it out. Links in the description below as well. Don't forget also, if you are reading or watching along in the next, probably right after the Oscars, I'm going to say, we're going to do our book club, The Nice House on the Lake by James Tynion IV, all 12 issues. And then shortly thereafter that, I'm going to torture Corey by making him watch the absolute classic Domino by Tony Scott.
Nope, I've never watched this movie beforehand. This is one of the few Curse of the Rewatches where I'm just going in completely blind.
I think we thought this. I think what we thought Swordfish was going to be is what Domino is going to be. I'm calling my shot now. We both thought Swordfish was going to be like kind of dumb fun, really silly
I
action.
remember it being dumb fun.
Garbage.
It was horrible, yeah. I remember it being dumb fun, but maybe as a kid, I'm like, John Travolta's saying a lot of things with intention, so they must be smart. And as an adult, I'm like, he's just saying a lot of stupid shit, and everyone's just like, uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you have to have the intelligence of, what were we, like 9-year-old, 8-year-old?
That sounds about
to
right.
think that movie's like smart.
Yeah.
And last but not least, don't forget, like and subscribe and drop a review if you're on the podcast feeds. Really helps us out, helps people discover us. But we've got a jam-packed episode for you guys today. We're talking about Mandalorian season 3 premiere and new comics from Image, Dark Horse, and DC. So let's jump into it. First up, as always, is the elevator pitch. I'm putting a minute on the clock for Corey, and go.
I initially put this as Batman Beyond the White Knight, but I guess in general I should just be pitching the series since it's like part 3 of it, so it'd be kind of insane just to jump into it. Writer and artist Sean Murphy has kind of somehow like gotten DC to let him do his own little universe concerning the Batman series. And if you haven't actually heard of this book, I believe the first one in all of it was Batman, the White Knight, and the entire point of the story is what if the Joker kind of became sane and they became a really good person. And in a context of that, I mean, in contrast to that, Batman's kind of a bit more crazy. And I think if anything, just start right there. That's a really good concept right there. And I think what Murphy has done post that is take a pretty decent concept and then he's allowed himself to evolve the story into a 3-parter, seemingly 4. I was surprised how much I enjoyed parts 2 and 3, which I read between our last couple episodes. And I really recommend this third one if you like a fan of Batman Beyond and kind of just the Batman character in general. It's just a really fun comic.
Yeah,
but, I very much recommend the first one.
I haven't personally read this one, but I did. I'm trying to remember. Did the first one make our top 10s? If not, it was a close miss. It's one of my favorite.
It was Batman a close miss, but I think that one came out 2 or 3 years ago. The first one,
it's been a minute.
Yeah, I didn't even read the second, and I think I read the second and third part concurrently, so I can't even say that I jumped into it. If anything, I finished the first one, I'm like, that was a good story. Why are they continuing it? And I think he did it in a really great way, because the first one was a bigger focus on Joker's character, and the second and third one was a lot more focused on his Bruce Wayne and Harley Quinn. And I think he's honestly written the best Harley Quinn. We definitely have talked about his Harley Quinn. The Harley Quinn.
The Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn book is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's really good too. So I think it would, if my opinion, you should read the first 2 Batman White Knights, the Harley Quinn series, and then the Batman Beyond the White Knight. So get some old man Bruce versus Terry McGinnis's Batman Beyond. You can't.
Harley Quinn is quickly becoming, I think, one of the better. It's always hard to say like what's my favorite DC book because it just basically just means what writers are writing good books about them. But I think all the Harley Quinn stuff I've read in recent years has been fantastic.
It's very interesting, like kind of like following comics for as long as we have now, where it started out me just reading the books of the characters I like, and now it's just more of like, oh, that writer's on it. I don't really give a shit who it is. I like that writer, so let me get over to that. Which is why I'm not reading Spider-Man right now, because it's hot garbage.
Marvel is a weird time to be reading. Marvel dropped like a bunch of number 1s this week. I read a couple of them. I'm like, they're all really not great.
It's like my confusion really with Spider-Man 2 is like, you have all of these pieces of media where people are latching on and going from that to read Spider-Man, but they're putting really bad writing into it. And they're like, let me refuse to let Spider-Man and Mary Jane become a couple for literally no reason, to the point most recently that Spider-Man said he loved her like a sister. I don't exactly understand.
They've had sex before.
She was pregnant before. Yeah. And I'm like, that is a wild thing to write down, Marvel, especially because you're trying to push fucking Tom Holland and Zendaya with it. Zendaya's, and I can't remember which one we keep fucking up now.
But she's not canon.
She's MJ. Right? Oh my god! But it doesn't fucking matter. She's MJ. Let's come the fuck on. I'm stupid as shit. Yeah. Let's not get into my anger with Marvel editorial. Che, what's your elevator pitch?
All right, minute on the clock as well. This is a show that I think if you are not living under a rock, you will have heard about. But in case you are, I'll let you know about it. It's called Poker Face. It is on the much maligned streaming network, Peacock, that if you have it, it probably means you're a Premier League fan. And it is, I think, one of my favorite things Rian Johnson's ever done. Maybe my favorite, because Rian Johnson is the king of subversion. He takes your favorite format or your favorite genre, and he insists on flipping on its head, which oftentimes, I will admit, kind of irks me. I think in this case, what he's done is he's taken like the serialized cop show or mystery and has done something really fascinating with it, which is to turn it into prestige TV. I love Natasha Lyonne in this. She's the one lead character. She's like traveling. It's like Murder, She Wrote, but for 2023. The penultimate episode aired earlier this week. We've got one more in the season. I'm sure it is. If it hasn't already been renewed, I actually don't even know. It will be very soon. It's Peacock's biggest hit by far. So
Who fucking knows television?
it is a fantastic watch. If you love mysteries, you should definitely be checking this out already.
I haven't gotten a chance to get to it. We're going to talk about it on episode, but I was unfortunately busy. But I think this is going to be my number one show once I try to get these last couple of Oscar movies in. Before I hop back over to television, I'm very excited to give this a watch, though. I mean, the audience already knows my fucking love for Rian Johnson. But you said the subverting thing, and I now actually realize what he was doing with Looper, and I now realize why I didn't like Looper.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, everything Rian Johnson does, he takes something that he loved as a kid, I'm assuming, or like is very popular, a la Star Wars, and then is like, actually, what if it wasn't Star Wars at all instead? And that's like, I understand why some people really connect with his stuff. Like, I know why some people really vibed with The Last Jedi. I did not.
I think a lot of people didn't. I love Rian Johnson, but I'm still very confused on why he decided to go in that direction with the movie, and it's just so many different directions, I think.
I don't blame him for that. What I don't
I don't either, but
why Disney, why Kathleen Kennedy was like, this is the guy for our...
This is the guy without a plan, without a real plan. I think that was the biggest thing, where he kind of came in with a blank slate. And I think there should have been some more guidance, but I honestly really would love to see now just a one-off Rian Johnson Star Wars movie, just like by itself.
A TV show would be, I think,
or a TV show, yeah,
because they can be way weirder and more interesting. I think there is no universe where Andor is a movie. No. And it really played as a TV show, and we both agree it's probably the best Star Wars thing ever. I would love to see. I think it's probably run its course. I think Rian Johnson is done with Star Wars for a number of reasons, both
I think
because
so,
of him
too.
and because of Disney on Disney's side. But
I'm sure Disney's like, no.
I would love to have seen a Rian Johnson Star Wars TV show where it's not in canon, isn't like the continuation of another guy's movie. It's a lot of things were just wrong with the last.
Exactly. I think he can make some fun little set pieces, but like everything about it was just like, why did we go in this direction of it? But I mean, can I just segue us into our first topic? Though?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, The Mandalorian episode 1 just came out for the 3rd season, and as Che kind of prefaced with it, it really if you guys haven't seen Boba Fett, I don't remember the episode number, but go through it. I'm sure it's easy to figure out which one it is. But there's basically a prequel episode between like seasons 2 and 3 for The Mandalorian season 3. Where he goes to the Luke Skywalker planet where Baby Yoda is training. I'm not going to call it by its name. It's Baby Yoda. And where like he pretty much just takes the baby from there, and now they're continuing on their adventures.
What is Baby Yoda's name if it's not Baby Yoda?
Grogu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Baby Yoda to be
honest. Exactly. It's Baby Yoda. It's but yeah, so Mandalorian got back Baby Yoda, and I think they also do double down on it in the beginning of this episode where his mission statement now is to go bathe themselves in the water of Lake Minnetonka, but we had to continue. That's pretty much what our main mission is going to be for this season. It seems like.
I texted Corey while I was watching it. I was like, wait, is he not supposed to be still delivering the baby? And I was a little premature. You do figure it out by the end. They make it clear that he like fucked up or whatever, and I don't know.
He gave the baby to Luke. Yeah. But then he got the baby back.
They got it back. Yeah. I wasn't super clear, but it was clear that mission, that part of the show was over, and that's all I really cared about. I'm a bit springing this on you, but I have some notes about the Mandalorian I took during the episode, and we'll get to those in a second. But I would just love, as somebody, actually I should just check. You still enjoy the Mandalorian, right? Still like this show? Okay, I would love for you to pitch this because I don't really get it. I feel like for 3 years I've been on the outside looking in, and being like, what do people like about it?
I think, first case, I think it's Star Wars. I think if I don't really know, as someone like yourself who's not a big Star Wars person, I think that's also a big detractor for you for that. I'm a big fan. I mean, the one thing I like about Star Wars, and I think I've said this beforehand, is it's one of the most fun worlds I feel like you can play with that's already been established. You can do whatever kind of genre you basically want within it, as long as you're creative with it. And I like Westerns. I know you do as well, but like I like Westerns, and I think this is a very fun concept for how it is, The Man with No Name initially, and then it kind of evolved from there into a True Grit-esque kind of vibe, and then as it's continued on with it. What I guess I like about this, in the simplest of terms, is it's just a very, and I think it probably speaks more to the my more immature side, where it's just a very fun character who I get to see be a badass continuously, set in and kind of just flowing through the Star Wars worlds, which I just like to be in episode by episode.
Yeah.
It feels like it's more of like I get to see the world through a kind of a Western lens, and I kind of get to pick up and choose, and kind of just finding a character who's not super involved in the stakes of the universe and kind of just doing his own thing. And I think that's at least what I enjoy about The Mandalorian, why I would like it to keep on going, because it never really seems to me like there needs to be an end point to it. But I think that's what I like about it, because I can go back to Star Wars, have a really fun character who's not another fucking Jedi or a Skywalker or somebody like that, and just kind of explore the universe, have fun guest stars, and just kind of, I don't know. I like the lore, and I think this is a really kind of fun story to kind of come back and do this again. So, but I think what Andor has is a very, coming into it, you don't really need to know about really what's going on. And in comparison to Mandalorian, it makes Mandalorian look like a kid's show, because ultimately Mandalorian is a bit
The Mandalorian
more,
is a kid's show, though, right?
Yeah, it's very much, but it's like kind of how like the original Star Wars were, and like I mean even the prequels are set up.
Those are kids.
Yeah, they're kind of like how the Marvel movies sit. They're not purely kids, but they're supposed to appeal to them, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, but Andor is very much more of like a mature show. Andor feels a lot more like a prestige television show than The Mandalorian. But I feel like, to me, it's one of the reasons I still read comic books, is that you kind of just want the action adventure style out of a show. And I think that's what this show is. It's like kind of action adventure thing that you don't really necessarily see as much in most other television shows, because television shows really don't exist a lot as much for their action set pieces. But it seems like with Mandalorian, that's really what they've kind of go for. Because I can't remember each episode for sure, but at least every time he shows up, there's something like there's like a shootout, there's a spaceship chase. There's always something to be like, that was cool, basically.
Yeah, we opened this episode with a very, very big
alligator
set piece that I was like,
one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
One of my biggest fears, honestly, because I don't like alligators, ladies and gentlemen.
We got another giant alligator coming up later in the podcast.
Bullshit, man. It's fucking everywhere.
I found it I just that set piece I thought was interesting, because it was like, oh, this is going to be a big plot point in the show, and then it ends up sort of just being a set piece, which I guess is what, to your point, is that this is what people like about the show, is it just can be cool. It's got a big budget behind it. Yeah, I also had a question now. What happens when the kid's head grows? I thought that was weird.
I'm assuming they get more helmets, Che. I'm assuming
can't take the helmet off. The nigga took his helmet off for like 1 second to stare at a baby, and he's been outcast forever.
I think you can't show your helmet to other people. You don't. They don't wear it in the shower, Che. I hope not.
I don't know.
I don't know. This helmet's probably smell.
Yeah, I
did kind of like that whole, like, at least the writing idea behind it. It's like, we have to at least establish his mission thing. And it's like, oh, it's a prequel thing for when he's a kid. Oh no, never mind. He's in his ship now. Blow things up. This is cool. Mission statement.
I did think it was a prequel.
I think that's what everyone thought. Cause I mean, like the kid even kind of looked like a young Pedro Pascal. I'm like, okay, I guess.
But it's just like an odd bait and switch. Like, I don't really
get it. Odd bait and switch. Also, just as general notes in The Mandalorians, that's a horrible place to do a ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. It was a nice location.
Maybe they just didn't know about the gigantic alligator. Maybe like we've been doing this for years.
Throw a wrench in the plans. That's for sure.
Maybe it's just like, oh shit. I mean, that's the thing about Star Wars world and every fantasy world that kind of just fucking sucks. It's like I could be going along my day, giant monster out of nowhere just kills me.
Yeah.
Like imagine how much it fucking must suck to live in like the regular Game of Thrones worlds where dragons can just show up and fuck your shit up. That would suck.
Yeah, no, it's not ideal. I mean, it's not ideal in Star Wars that you could just be walking down the street and get shot by some pirates. It does feel like it's not the place.
I do like how gentrified our starting planet has become.
That was, I mean, so that's the first time we've seen that place since the first time we've seen a new version of that place, right?
Yes, it's the first time we've come back.
I was just making sure that I hadn't missed like a whole
No. Carl Weathers does not show up. No. This is the first time we've seen Carl Weathers since and also we did hand wave away our resident racist Disney character that got the boot.
Was she a big part of the show?
No, not really. But like the last time we saw her, she was like became like the marshal of that town, and so they had to like at least be like, where's the sheriff basically, I guess. And she very a la Poochie from the Simpsons that he returned to his home planet, but also died on the way there. So it's like she ain't coming back. I just watched that episode. That's why it's on my brain.
I also I found the pirates to be comically evil in a way that I is like just classic westerns in general, where these guys are like, no, we're gonna drink in the school. What are you talking? Why?
Yeah.
Why even do this?
It's like I think even like to me, I'm like, he offered to give you a free drink.
Yeah,
Why
he's like just go drink in the bar, weirdos.
Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, it's like the son of boy. Like that'd be really wild. Just to be like, yeah, I'm gonna drink in here. I'm like, this is my office, bro. Like,
there's no way it would be fun for him.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's like this isn't like good for you. It's I guess it's like the classic power flex. Also, this people just got shot in front of that school, but like
yeah,
that's still like no matter how much you dress it up, it's still not the best planet. But I'm sure the pirates and Carl Weathers plot line is going to be a thing. Yeah, that's going to come back around.
Because otherwise, that interaction with the ship and the Swamp Thing monster is completely pointless. But
I mean, I'm really happy that Bill Nighy's nephew was able to make a appearance.
Is that who that was?
I can't remember the name of the character from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh,
Davy Jones. There it is.
Yeah, I was like, who are you talking? It's a weird pull for that actor, Bill Nighy's nephew.
My brain is like, I remember Bill Nighy being the tentacle guy, but I don't remember fucking anything else. But I think to your point though, I do. I mean, like the thing about it with the first episode of it was just a lot of setup, and I think.
Well, so was this a good episode of The Mandalorian?
I want to say kind of. I don't want to say. I think it was very. I like the ship scenes. I like a lot of the action scenes, but it was so much clearly like we just want to do a lot of setup and just kind of establish our tone for the series. Which when it ended, I'm like, oh, that kind of ended a bit anticlimactically because like I'm gonna come back next week, but I feel like I kind of just like puttered out at the end, and I was like, oh, I thought there'd be like one or two more scenes at least to kind of like let us keep moving because I think I liked a lot of the little small points. I mean, Baby Yoda still is a very good comedic relief in the series, which I think is great. Never gonna call him by his name. The fuck was those space whales things? I'm assuming that'll come back around. I don't know what the fuck that was about.
You think so? I thought that was just supposed to be like sort of a beautiful visual, but maybe they will. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that was kind of cool because I'm like, oh wait, those things are traveling the speed of light. I guess.
Yeah.
Space whales or space squids. I don't fucking know. So,
they looked more like squids than whales, but
Disney very much was like, we're gonna make a lot of fucking weird monsters in our Star Wars, and I kind of do like it. I like the whole addition of these weird, but it does make the universe scarier to me still. But and going back, I didn't really realize how many weird monsters there were in the first couple ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, Star Wars is fantasy, as we talked off air.
Yeah, it soft sci-fi and fantasy are I would say one and the same thing, but I don't know if that's like it's a distinction rather than a criticism. I don't really know if that even matters. I would imagine most people probably view Star Wars as a fantasy anyway. I mean, the Force is magic.
The Force, they literally are space wizards with laser swords. It's like you're not really using much tech. It's not really much science going on there.
And timeline wise, we're never going to see a Jedi in the show. I'm assuming.
Well, we already have seen Jedi. We saw Luke. We saw Luke. Right. Yeah, and Ahsoka. We've seen Rosario Dawson. We've seen Jedi before. We're just not going to see.
You're right.
Yeah. So I don't think that's the point of the show though, which I enjoy that. It doesn't seem like the point of the show does not seem to be like.
No, I think that's the thing that was so disappointing about the Ewan McGregor show. What's that character's name?
Kenobi.
Yeah. Is that it just wanted to be the same thing as like all the rest of Star Wars, where you have this chance to be something different. Just do a different thing. You have. They did not.
I think you have a good actor. They had a good basis of a storyline, and I'm like, this is what they really wanted to go with. But it also, again, it's another man with a small child trying to get them to go places. What's going on? Who are the test audiences for this? Who's agreeing to all this?
I don't know. I think it's not even like. I think this is what producers are like. You have to have a kid in your show.
We're pushing that again.
Well, because they clearly attract kids. I guess kids don't watch shows without children in them, and you need.
No, we did, or we just.
Yeah, weird? But maybe they don't now. I don't know. Like if I was a kid, I don't think I would give a shit about the the like little kid storyline in these movies, but I don't know. It's
No.
hard to say now.
Yeah, no, I think if anything in Black Adam, I'd be like, this kid's fucking stupid.
Oh, I forgot Black Adam existed.
No, I did not. You want to take a quick break, Che, and talk about some comics?
Yeah, we're gonna come back and talk about some comics.
I did what I did for the good of the realm.
The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
But what do we have left once we abandon the lie? Chaos. A gaping pit waiting to swallow us all.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail, and never get to try again. The fall breaks them.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right. First up is the new Image book from Jeff Lemire, Gabrielle Walta, and Jody Belair, Phantom Road. And I guess you could call this a fantasy horror book, fantasy mystery thriller. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know a lot yet, which is it's pretty classic from a Lemire issue number 1, where he just sort of throws you in the deep end and he trusts you'll figure it out from there. And,
We got our classic Lemire. We got our family issues. We got a lot of confusing shit. We got one idiot. It's just all of like the formula works and it continues to work.
And I think like one of my favorite things about Lemire books is he's just sort of the king of the cold open. And this is a absolutely excellent cold open. That just the first page where you're like, what the hell's going on? This guy's running, trying to get in a truck. And then we flash back.
I just want to give a shout out to my little brother for also locking me out of a location once when I was running away from something.
This woman is wild though. Like, what are you doing?
That woman's absolutely crazy.
Because also, like, you think it's gonna be better for you if he gets murdered by all these monsters and it's just you? Then, like, that's
do you know how to drive a pickup truck? I mean, drive a U-Haul. Oh my god, what the fuck is 18-wheeler?
18-wheeler.
I'm like, what the fuck kind of truck is that? I don't. Those things are difficult to drive. I'm not gonna figure that shit out.
I do think that like Long Road Truckers is a very ripe setting for a horror book because it's just guys who drive alone on the emptiest roads in America at night.
Yeah.
Like, it is there was an episode of Evil, our favorite television show of all time.
We gotta do a podcast about that show, Che. I don't know why you're preventing.
I'm so ready. Don't lie to the people. You know I've been prepared for years.
It's just like the people who watch the X-Files podcast. We're just gonna do that for Evil because it is the same show but better. Yeah. Come at me, X-Files fans. Mulder and Scully, no, give me horny priest and that woman.
They still haven't fucked yet, though.
They haven't fucked yet?
Not in real
come
life.
on.
She keeps having dreams where like the demon version of him has sex with her. It's great. The
she
show
still
is
married?
lit, Corey.
Is she still married?
Yeah.
To that husband who's just mysteriously gone half the time? That was also the most wild. Like, he's just back. Like, do you imagine coming back and this is my coworker now? I'm like, yeah, you ain't working that job anymore.
There is a point in the show where I'm like, as a avid viewer, he comes back and I was like, he's been gone for so long and no one's mentioned him at all. I was like, oh shit, that's right. She's been married this whole time.
Yeah.
That show's great.
I thought her husband was dead.
I won't spoil the third season, but weird shit happens to him. Either way, let's not talk about Evil until we do our Evil podcast. Let's talk about Phantom Road. Yeah, and my notes were basically, because we don't get a ton from this issue, but I love the art. I think it's really fitting. And I do just think that this is sort of the confidence that you get from being as prolific as Lemire has been, where you can just write an issue where you don't get a ton, but it's just enough. It's the perfect amount to get readers really hooked. Like, I want to know who these weird alien monsters are. I want to know what sort of like other dimension they've been sent to.
Yeah. Why are they there? What is the thing they touched? Like, why do they feel drawn to take it with them? There's a lot of like
do you feel that is genuinely terrifying. I did not like that.
Did not like that whatsoever.
I did not like that at all.
And I like the way that they're doing the pacing of it, where we don't see the guy like beat the shit out of all these monsters. It's just more of like, that's not what the story is.
I liked that, but then also I was like, God damn, just a missed action sequence set. I think narratively great.
I think it's like, yeah, I'm like, I guess I hope it sets up to some future ones because it's also just a good establishing point. I'm like, this guy can kick some ass, apparently.
Or these
things go down.
Yeah, they go down easy.
Like paper.
Yeah, I think this is a like you said, it hits a lot of the stuff that we love about Lemire. It is pretty like, it's kind of like Lemire Mad Libs, but that's okay. I think having all this stuff in, I do think the family issue thing at the moment seems like a non sequitur, but maybe we will, because we don't know a lot about our secondary character, this woman that we meet after the car crash. We don't know anything about her. Maybe there is a connection between his familial trauma and hers, and that is why they've been brought together. Because the only thing we know about this guy is he's a truck driver and has I think that's a flashback, or is that
Seems
him?
like it.
It's unclear because the face that leans down looks like him, but obviously you do look like your parents. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be his childhood. He had a bad childhood, and not that he has a weird relationship with his kid.
It seems like that's, at least to me, it seemed like from his perspective it was. Like, the dad did look just like him, so it did kind of throw me, I think. But I'm assuming it was the kid though. But
there's that cut to, so for the YouTube viewers, I'll plug it. You can see this page on the screen, or if you're reading along, bring up your book. There is that, once we see the kid, the flashback ends, and we flash forward to him driving down the road where he eventually crashes. In the reflection of the window, it seems like what he's seeing is his father's face. And then when after the crash, where this woman is talking about how she saw somebody as well. And the book is aptly named Phantom Road. So maybe there is a thing about like you're seeing ghosts on this road and you're being sent to this ghost realm or something. A lot of really interesting questions being set up here.
A lot of interesting questions. And as always with Lemire, I'm like, oh great, now I'm just another mystery horror series that I can't wait to go down the deep end for. And I actually just finished one of the his other little series, the Feather one,
Black Feather, yeah.
I read the little original graphic novel, the one with the lighthouse, and that was also fucking horrifying. So if you guys see that around, it's
that old lady is terrifying.
Oh my god, I'm just so sick of scary naked old women in media. They're always terrifying.
They are always terrifying. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else to say about this first issue of Phantom Road? Like we've been saying over and over again, it gives you just enough, but not a whole lot narrative wise.
No, not really. I just think it's one of those books now that I'm like, he's just added on to these like books that he's consistently coming out right now. It's like between this Little Monsters, which is a different type of book, I'm just like loving what Lemire's currently putting out.
Yeah, Little Monsters certainly has horror elements in it, but I would never really call it a horror
I
book.
would consider that.
This seems more like a horror book.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Little Monsters led into like Descender or some bullshit like that, honestly.
Oh, what a universe crossover. You got me incredibly excited, Gray. I like that idea.
I'm going to be really mad if I'm actually wrong about that, because it does sound, it could work.
Could work. Vampires, robots.
Where did everybody go? Maybe everybody left for the stars. Like,
I love it.
All right, that's not the point of this right now. We're not even talking about Little Monsters.
Next up, we're moving on to one of our favorite writers on the podcast, a completely different total switch, but that's okay. The
still
first issue of Kyle Stark's comedy book,
black comedy, I guess.
Black comedy book. So script by Kyle Starks, art by Peter Kowalski, colors by Vladimir Popov, and letters by Joshua Reed. And we're 2 issues into Where Monsters Lie, which is, I think, one of my favorite just elevator pitches from Kyle Starks ever. A gated community in the suburbs in which all of the houses are inhabited by serial killers who are demons employed by the devil. And they have like a homeowners association.
Yep.
It's just like, it's a very clean, great idea. Absolutely batshit opening of this book where we watch 3 children get brutally murdered.
Like comedically brutally murdered. And it's just very much like also another book we read called Vinyl. It's a very kind of similar vibe to that. But also like all of the murderers in this community kind of have some references to like there's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy. I mean, obviously clown murderer, like all the little like a Riddler knockoff kind of person.
Starks has proved time and time again he's a big movie fan, and that sort of, I mean, the action, what was the action book called again?
Sex Castle, but also
the
Kill Them All.
Yeah, Kill Them All. Yeah.
Oh no, you're thinking about Assassination.
There you go. There's so many. There's so many that all of his books really have like cinematic references in them. This is like
very much so.
There's a lot of overlap in these books or references in these books to classic horror heroes, including like Jason and It and
yeah, just all of them. And I like his continuing thread of having competent characters. And then what I mean by that is the black kid who gets away and is like legitimately so upset that they brought him back just to get him killed again, and him just like attempting to escape again. It was very enjoyable.
Once again, one of my favorite tropes in all these books is completely incompetent police officers, to the point where it seems like this one cop that gets introduced is like kind of going to be our main character, and even he is a true moron.
Moron. Like, he couldn't have done this any worse.
Yeah, I mean, also the scene where he's just in the house talking to this woman while all of his coworkers are being murdered outside is wild.
Yeah, it's like,
wild.
Why would you set this up for places that potentially have murderers?
Yeah, and murderers he is uniquely familiar with. Like, it's not like
yeah, like he saw one of these murderers do like apparently kill like 30 fucking people at a fucking like, and I'm like, you can't just like stroll these people. Don't have your gun out. I don't know. This is just more incompetent police work, but it's played for the story. It's like kind of like frustrating, but at the same time, it's also establishing that this community is not to be trifled with very early on.
You can't trust a man who's had the same haircut since he was a child.
That's very true.
My takeaway from this book is that this man's had a mohawk since he was like 7, and that's not a good look.
Not a good look.
I think Kyle Starks, as we talked about in relation to his Hate This Place book, is that he's sort of entering this horror era of comic, and I think horror comics, as we've talked about many times before, are often pretty hard to convey true terror. Like, it's just not a medium that really scares you that effectively. But a horror comedy book or like a black comedy book like this, I think is very effective. And Kyle Starks is obviously one of the funniest guys out there.
I think the thing with comics is like you have to do two things. You have to have entertainment value like this does, but also some horror in it. Or you can just do the Jeff Lemire ones where you're thinking about it or thinking about the image that you saw for like a day afterwards. But between that, it's really hard to do horror without like, it's very rare that I've been like legitimately scared besides like Gideon Falls, I think, or like, I think Gideon Falls is the only horror comic I've read that's like, I needed to kind of do something else afterwards before I could go to sleep.
Well, I think the thing
that's not light night reading, guys. Yeah. Trust me.
The thing that separates Lemire's horror from most horror comic books is that what's scary about his books and that he does so well is it's the fear of the unknown. Is he gives you so little to grasp onto in the stories, and that sort of propels the terror forward. For Where Monsters Lie, we get all of the information sort of up front. We meet everybody. We meet all these. There's no really unknown. Besides, the only thing that we don't know for sure is what does it really mean that they're working with the devil. Like, I don't exactly. It's not super clear what they're doing exactly. But
is it because they're crazy, or is it a similar situation to Ready or Not?
It does sort of seem like they actually are working with the devil.
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, I think they hint that the woman's been old forever.
Yeah, she seems to be quite immortal. So
yeah. But no, really entertaining though so far. I think like he does such a good job, and I like what he's where his initial work was usually just like the main characters. Now he's kind of been doing a really good job of establishing ensemble cast for his comics. I mean, we saw this in Assassination and 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. He seems to be doing that, and I mean, even to an extent of I Hate This Place has also started to like. I think it's like 3 to 4 main characters in the story right now. I think he's doing a really good job with that book. I think the issue for that just came back as well, so. Definitely check out Where Monsters Lie. I think we're on issue 2 or 3 of that now. Yeah. But also, I mean, I did talk about this book a couple weeks ago, but I Hate This Place. Volume 1 came out, and I also really recommend that one too. If you're looking for something that's entertainment horror, where Cal Starks writes a pretty damn good self-aware book, and I don't really know as many people can do that as him without crossing the line into being like unfunny or cringy.
Yeah, it's maybe unfair to the Shirtless Bear Fighter guy because we always dump on his book, but it is always in my mind sort of the perfect parallel to be like, this is sort of when it doesn't work. Is it's just like you lean into the joke to the point where you sort of beat it to death, like it becomes unfunny. I think it's hard to say 2 issues in, but Kyle Starks has a pretty established reputation of these books, so I'm pretty confident saying like he has an idea of when the joke has run its course and when it hasn't. And I think this is a very effective. It's also just like we said before. It's such a clean setup. Like I think it's just a brilliant idea for a book.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this going forward. It's just it's a really fun read. So, which is weird to say for a book that's opens with.
Yeah, I read the description and I was like, oh wow, he's going full horror. Then I enter. I'm like, oh, this is still Kyle Starks because there's a guy named Fuckmaster.
Very, very hard to play. I think it's underrated because comedy, as we will talk about in a week's time, never gets any love when it comes to prestige. Is like referring to the Oscars, how comedies never win the Oscars. People who act in comedies never get Oscar acting nominations. But it is a art form that is, I would say, as difficult, if not more difficult than drama at times, because it is a line that you have to skirt between absurdity and humor, and it's hard to not turn into Adam Sandler. It's hard not to become a parody of yourself.
Yeah, it's very surprising whenever comedians in movies last as long as they do last, but those people who usually do last aren't really funny.
Yeah.
Occasionally, but you have John Cleese though, so it's just like there's always a breaking the rule.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our last new comic before we take a break, and that is Paul Dano's. Yes, that Paul Dano, The Riddler, Year 1, and we are 3 issues into this book. Corey, you want to run down a little bit of what we've seen so far from this? I would say we both agree, excellent.
Yeah, the book is great so far. So this book acts as unclear how long it is before the Batman, but it is it does follow the Riddler's character in that before time. I think was it Edward Nashon or something like that, when he's just like a regular forensic accountant working at some firm, where we're kind of just following his daily life as someone who is very attentive and detail focused and working for clearly a corrupt financial institution, and also just generally dealing with that anxiety that
blatantly corrupt in a way that it's like almost like Enron comical, where you're like, come on, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like the Gotham City, like this is the worst of the worst people,
right?
Stereotype, for sure. And it's also like does a good job of like kind of like establishing that world, but it's entirely taking place from this character's mind, where we'll like kind of like also it's like not super unreliable narrator, but sometimes it'll just go in that direction where you don't even realize it.
I think what it is unreliable about himself. We obviously the things he's saying about himself are clearly, you can just watch. He thinks he's the hero of the story, and we know for a number of reasons that he isn't. But I don't think we're supposed to believe that what we're seeing is not true in the same way that you could maybe guess that with like another type of unreliable narrator.
Agreed. But it's also like everything we're seeing through is through his lens, and so we're basically seeing this guy like break down, and as Che mentioned in the break, like we talked about, it was like very much like a person who's like feels like they're on the outskirts of society, and they turn to the internet, and just those people, and kind of just seeing that develop. And I think Dano does such a good job of seeing like the steps that it's taking for him to become who the character that he is in the Batman.
I think reading this book, and I already thought Paul Dano was like amazing in the Batman. I think reading this book really taps into why I think, like, not just this performance, but it's obviously this is an insight to this particular performance, but like what separates great actors from good actors is like Paul Dano is clearly obsessed about what the interiority of this character he's put on screen is about. Like how he understand, he like imagined an entire origin story, and has tapped into what I think most people would probably assume is unnecessary for like a superhero movie. But there is a reason why the Batman is, there's a number of reasons why the Batman is infinitely better than like Black Adam, for example. But a big part of that is this attention to detail that everyone puts in. And like Paul Dano is an obsessive, that has been clear in all the movies he's directed and acted in before. But this is, I think, one of the more clear examples of that he is truly dedicated to understanding this character and unpacking it. And I'm super into these first 3 issues. I think he's got
Me too.
something really special here, which is surprising because rarely do we get the transfer from screen to comic book and it works all that well.
Rarely when you get a freaking actor who does it too.
Yeah, I like the Patton Oswalt books, but they're different. They're different things. They're like,
well, he's a comedian, but Patton Oswalt's a comedian though. Like, so it's kind of like, you know, I think that's a different expectation, at least from my mind, between like this though, and then you get the fucking horrible J.J. Abrams Spider-Man book, which was okay. Let's be honest, it's a very clearly a nepo baby book, where I think it very much proved that J.J. Abrams' son is a shit writer, like truly abysmal writer. But yeah, I did enjoy this book though.
I think it's really good. We talked about on last issue, Gotham City Year One. These are great parallels to each other. This is like Gotham's is about watching this city that we all are very familiar with. If you're DC or even like cursory Batman fans, you know this city is like a true hellscape. The Riddler Year One is about somebody who's clearly being like broken by this city, who has been broken by the city. We read this character and he's become unhinged because of how awful he views Gotham as, and then Gotham Year One is obviously this the story about how all of that evil comes to the forefront. Yeah, not that it starts there, because obviously, as we learn over the book, it's always been there, but it comes into the light. And I love in the first issue, when I heard about this book of the Riddler Year One, is that interaction he has with Batman, where Batman looks like evil, like he is the villain of this book. And I think that's obviously very intentional. We get this giant man in all black beating up what looks like helpless civilians. Obviously, that's not what it is, but this whole book is through.
Which I think is also like makes a lot of sense to why the Riddler would view the Batman as being like, oh, we're on the same side kind of vibe. And it makes a lot more sense, like, seeing that through that vibe. Instead, like, because I mean, as an audience, we're like, nah, you're just crazy, but he is crazy. But like, it's like at least explaining why he views that he did, the reason he did with what he did. And it's a good job of like understanding that and like exploring that. Yeah. Really enjoying this.
Great book. I didn't realize when I first started reading it that this was a prequel to the movie itself. And I was just like, is it weird that Paul Dano's decided to write a book where he is the main character, basically? Obviously not Paul Dano himself, but like, the Riddler is drawn like Paul Dano. But then when you realize it's supposed to be a prequel to the Batman movie, that canon version of Riddler, it makes more sense. But
I think if we followed his point of view in the Batman movie, it would be very boring.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm happy it wasn't that comic too.
Well, because at that point he's fully deteriorated into just living online, and like it should just be a movie about a guy in his bedroom talking to people on Reddit, which nobody wants to see.
There goes that short film idea.
Listen, if you can make it work, you might be the greatest writer of all time. But I don't know if there's a good story in there.
I don't think so either.
Anything else to say about the Riddler Year One before we will absolutely check back into this book. There's this third issue. It's really starting to pick up. I don't know. Do we have a amount of book? Like, is this a 10-issue miniseries? I don't even know.
I do not know. I don't want to just clack on my keyboard, look it up. I'm not entirely positive.
That's all right. I do think we're starting to pick up, obviously, and in this book we start to see him truly begin to.
I would be surprised if we got another. I feel like from my reading, maybe 2 more issues. I can even see them wrapping it up in 1 more, but I'm assuming 2 more. But
I buy. I think we're going to talk about a book in a second that I think is maybe a little bit poorly paced. I do think this book, if it wraps up soon, is pretty ideal pacing for what we got going here. So. I'll ask again, but I think you said no. Anything else to say about Year One before we take?
No, nothing else to say about Year One for me.
All right, we're gonna come back and talk about a conclusion of a Marvel book.
We don't know what the hell's going on because now wait, what are we doing? Oh, wait, that's right. We're on our way to rescue our children from the big bad 4th of July celebration.
You know what? If you can't handle this, then just turn around and drop me off first.
What are you gonna do? You gonna walk back to August?
I will do anything if it gets me away from you.
Children!
This interminable bickering was amusing at first, but it's getting very stale, and we've still got a long drive ahead of us. So, why don't you two cut the horseshit and get to the part where you admit your sexual feelings for one another?
Whoa!
You are way off base,
Oh, spare me, spare me, spare me. Yes, he's a brute. I know. Probably reminds you of a bad relationship. And gosh, you really like a nice man to settle down with, but admit it, you're real curious to know what he's like in the sack. And you, well, you're just a big man baby who'd rather act tough than show his true feelings because the last time you opened your heart, you got hurt. Owie. And now, rather than admit these feelings, you're dancing around one another with this mind-numbing and frankly boorish mating ritual. So, please, for my sake, either quit your bickering or pull over, tear off those clothes, and get it over with already!
And we're back.
So,
All right, we're going to be talking about the conclusion of the 4-issue miniseries from DC from... I said Marvel in the break, didn't I?
you might have. Well, there is a Marvel in it, so
I don't know what happened to my brain there. But written by Josie Campbell and art by the legendary Doc Shaner. Which actually, now that I've just said that, I wonder... I hope this is not the case, but I wonder if the reason this book feels like it got cut short is because Shaner was like, I got 4 issues in me, Chief. And
I think that's a really big possibility. So yeah, we're talking about a new champion of Shazam. It was a 4-issue miniseries that just concluded.
And we talked about the first issue. We both really liked the first issue, and I really liked the second issue. And
yes.
Then...
And then yeah, the thing about it is in the story, kind of a quick breakdown of the story is Billy Batson, aka the main Shazam, like his powers were going away and he's disappeared mysteriously and could only give his powers to one of his like many foster siblings. And he chooses Mary, who's the oldest and is on her way to college and just genuinely trying to be a real human being. But she's having to deal with more monsters showing up, getting kicked out of school because of said monsters, basically, and being forced to return home to a household where her siblings hold some type of animosity towards her because she's the only one who got to keep the powers, while also her balancing the fact that she really doesn't want to be back home. And she's kind of struggling with that whole being stuck syndrome that a lot of people in their lives just basically struggle with.
It's a very effective, as we were talking about in the break, is it a very effective setup. I think we talked about this in the first issue. It's a great concept for a book. I really like I think maybe for the first time ever, I can genuinely say I really liked the familial aspects of this book. I thought they were some of the best parts.
Yeah.
And
I think everyone was like written very realistically to how like I think a situation like this would be handled. If I like had superpowers and only one of us got to keep it, and I'd be like, no, like I'm not gonna. I don't hate you, but I'm not really.
Yeah, it's. I think people always have this reaction where it is absolutely frustrating to see Mary's family react to her the way that they do. That is obviously
entirely unfair.
Right. But it is very human. It's like, I always have this conversation with people. I have a friend who's been talking about this forever about our favorite Harry Potter books. And the conversation got resparked by the absolute smash hit that is Hogwarts Legacy.
True.
And I've always said my favorite book, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I think the best book is 5. The Order of the Phoenix. And she hates that book because Harry is a drag to spend time with. He is like a true in his puberty era teenage boy and is like a fucking miserable hang.
That's one of the things about the Harry Potter series is sometimes he's just a little shit and you just got to deal with it.
But kids are, and that's my point.
Especially at 15, I was fucking horrible at 15. And especially, and also like, I mean, obviously also the 5th book, he's dealing with a lot of shit and being gaslit by an entire society.
The universe. Gaslit by everybody.
He's being gaslit and only like 5 people basically believe him.
And like 6 months ago, he watched a guy die and nobody seems to give a shit about that. It's very weird. But in this,
he just mysteriously died. Like the fuck? Go on.
In this book, we have this like family of orphans who have once again been abandoned by somebody and have lost the one thing they thought made them feel special. Yeah. Not thought, but the one thing that not the one thing. Lost something that made them feel special. Their fucking superpowers, and they're upset about it. And they treat this character who is going through a really rough time in her life poorly because of it. It is hard to watch. It is very human. And I think I just wish we could have spent way more time with that part of the book. Unfortunately, Campbell, either by her own design or by need be for canon, introduces I think one of the worst villains I've read in a DC book in a while.
Yeah, I think the problem I had with her, where I got to her reveal, was I'm like, oh, they just did this in Spider-Verse, but they did it better in Spider-Verse with like 3 lines.
But also, there's
And no
the
reason.
second she walks onto the page that you're like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the villain. She walks in the
This is the
classroom,
villain.
and I'm like, that's the villain. Because
Yeah.
why else would this professor be talking?
Yeah, it's like there's,
in this 4-issue book? What's the point of it? It's just
that's the hard thing about mysteries, though. It's very, very difficult. But also the problem with it was they introduced the villain in the second issue, so it's like we've introduced like any of the players that could have been played, especially now that we've settled ourselves back in Philadelphia or Fawcett City, whatever the fuck they wanted to call it. I couldn't remember.
Fawcett College in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Got it. Good way to combine it. I like that.
But that is a big part of why I think the major deficit of this book. And there are things that I think are really working. Obviously, Doc Shooner's art is incredible.
And I think the dialogue the dialogue is really fucking good too. Like I think the core aspect of the story do a really good job. It's just it feels
pacing really lets it down.
And the pace.
This should be 6 issues minimum, and I think even more. I think it's better as a 10-issue.
I think it would have been great as 2 volumes. There's two solid 5-issue stories. And what we mean by that, guys, is like basically we like explain what happened, but really the whole mystery and the reveal and the build-up kind of happens in the last half of the 3rd book, and the most of the 4th book is just exposition with a very quick ending.
You say the last half of the 3rd book. I think you're being generous. She basically drops the mystery on us in like 2 pages. It's so weird.
It's very weird. And like not enough hints going into it. And I think it's like the thing about mysteries, this is so hard to set up and execute. And I mean, that's why we don't really see as many movie mysteries as movies, because it's a short time to do it. And the ones that usually work well and the ones that usually stick with us are the series, like long form television series of mysteries. And what a 4-issue miniseries to me as like a concept, it really feels like what would akin to be 1 episode of television.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like this book should have been like a movie length. It could have been done in 3 acts, but it feels like it felt like it was done in 3 acts, but the 2nd and 3rd act were just slapped in there really quickly. Like it was just like, oh, we read all this thing and I needed to figure out a way to cut through that. It feels very edited and it feels very limited for the story that I think was supposed to have been told.
Yeah, which is a shame because I think thematically Campbell has something like pretty great here. I really like the doubt that this character is suffering with because she is a woman living in this sexist society. I mean, obviously, I think it's a little ham-fisted, especially when she meets the what's that guy? What's his fucking name? The insulter or whatever. That guy.
I don't remember.
One of the weirdest villains ever. It's like I understand it thematically. It's really interesting, and I'm sure a thing that millions and billions of women have dealt with, especially in the comic industry. That scene is like not great. It's just
not
like this
great.
guy talking at her, and she's like fainting.
I really do. I hate that I love text block used in like actual.
I think that panel is sick.
I know. I don't mean
It's
I
a
hate it, but
sick
I don't mean I hate it, but I'm just like, it's just so easy. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I always like love whenever an artist can kind of just play with the medium like that. I'm like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, you're talking about the "What a Piece of Utter Trash" panel.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great panel. I just think that scene is like more thematically interesting than narratively successful.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the problem is like the themes in the dialogue were great. It's just the story felt like somebody edited down the plot points.
Yeah.
And
She got too many good ideas for such a small book, which
absolutely.
feels like we're beating a dead horse complaining about the pacing. But I think that is basically the only thing that's wrong with this book is that it's way too short. She has to pack way too much stuff in here. There's a part where she tries to do some like socioeconomic commentary in the book. And I'm just like, you don't have time for this, my guy. I don't think you can pull this off.
Because I was going through it again right before the podcast happened. I was just kind of scanned through the book, and I was just like the whole like dropping in of like they were just homeless, and I'm like. That was like I feel like she wanted to talk a bit more about that, but it just kind of happened. And it's just like 2 things like right back to back, and they kind of kept it moving. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're not really the whole tragedy of the fact that there's all these monsters that she's been fighting are people isn't really touched upon, really.
It's skated over incredibly quickly.
I think
it has like very little effect on the book at all. That all these unhoused people are dead now. That's it. They're dead, and we don't really get a chance to even watch this character contend with that idea.
Yeah, like that's a lot to just drop on somebody. I mean, like we've seen that. I've seen that thing done in a lot of movies and books where like it's revealed that the monsters they've been fighting the entire time were people, or they were like something that like it was innocent people that we had to take out. Right. And I love when they do that because it can just lead to so much emotionality and so much trauma that the main character has to deal with while also still having to deal with the threat. And I think another thing that did annoy me as well from as many things that bothered me from the Justice League movie, where they had the thing like the parademons were people or alien creatures that were turned into this, and they're like, we could still kill them though, right? And it's just like, it's like there's not even like a really drop of the hat of like what this really is. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing about like Avengers: Infinity War, where it's like they're just mindless. Don't worry about blowing them up. I'm like, that's fine. I got to think about that. That's cool action. But when you drop the whole fact that like they're people, it adds this level of tragedy, especially if houseless people. It doubles down about how fucked up this entire concept is, and it ends on a positive note. But even then, it ends kind of on a dire note. I'm excited to see this author do more stuff because I think she would just do such a great job in having a longer run of something, or at least an ongoing.
It's clear. It's clear that Campbell has the tools to write an amazing book. That is evident from the first 2 issues of this book, and even elements of the 3rd and 4th issue. I think, and like you were saying in the break, I think a lot of this is editorial needing to get Shazam to a specific part, to Lazarus Planet, to the new Shazam book, to timing all that stuff with the release of the movie. I'm confident that this was not her decision to write this book the way it ended up being written.
I do hope that we can get it. I hope she gets another shot either at this character or another character in the future, because I think she's a really solid writer. And I'm excited to see Mark Waid do the regular Shazam book, but I'm hoping that we can still like kind of find, I would like to see more of Mary, because she's one of those characters where in the modern age, she really hasn't had a lot to do. And I think there's a lot of room to kind of develop her character. And I would love to see her arc continue from here. Even if Billy does come back, I would like to see her arc of like maybe contending to be the person who's the back home person while Shazam does a lot more of the magic shit. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's the good concept about the Shazam book in general is how human the characters can be. And I think when it's written well, it does work. It's just kind of hard to get a good writer on this. And I think she does such a great job of this. I want to see her do more stuff. But yeah. Yeah,
and absolutely agree. And obviously, we have Mary in the movie as well, Grace Fulton. So I don't. It's always hard contending with the stuff with like DC and Marvel when they clearly have to have 2 feet in 2 very different universes. Like I don't see, unfortunately for her, Grace Fulton being a big part of the DC.
I don't know if we're gonna see Zachary Levi in the big plan of the DC universe going forward. So
we'll see. I mean, if Shazam pops, then
Shazam's probably gonna bomb. Honestly, I've seen like 3 commercials.
Yes, it will. But if it bombs,
I've seen no advertisement. It's fucking nuts. I'm like, wow, they just really want to let this shit just get out.
I think Warner Brothers has pretty officially bailed on the existing. I will be very interested to see what the Flash like marketing looks like, because that is a weird one where it's like it is the end in a lot of ways of the first phase of the DCEU, and it's transferring into the next phase. But like, do they just let that one burn out and die and be like, if you guys care about canon, go watch it yourself? Or
they put out a Super Bowl trailer, but the Super Bowl trailer was mostly about Michael Keaton's Batman. I can't lie. I honestly was like, I guess the Flash is technically in this, but honestly,
I wonder if that's a decision is to not give too many people too much like spoilers. I wonder if they were just like, we'll just focus on Michael Keaton's Batman because we don't want people to know too much about what's happening in the Flash movie.
I think that's fair, yeah.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. There's also a chance that they don't give a fuck about this movie at all.
It's true. That's very true. But yeah, nothing else for me to say about the new champion of Shazam. I will say this though. I think it's still a fun comic book to read. I'm not gonna say it was our best book that we've read in the last couple of years, but like honestly, I thought it was a solid 3 out of 5, and I do mean that with a very good sense to that.
Like we said, I think it undeniably has a lot of really great ideas, and as I've said, I think a million times before, if my biggest criticism about your book or your movie or your TV show is that I just wanted more of it, then you're doing something right. You're doing something right. And that's all. I mean, I'm with you that I the next thing that Campbell writes, I will be picking up. I think she's got some real talent here. So
this is a great resume to have with a fantastic artist.
Yeah, I mean, if for nothing else, just pick this shit up for the Doc Shaner art. I mean, Shaner is like, one of my. I still rock with it, like the real abstract shit. I'm not gonna lie, I'm weird like that. But if I'm not doing an Andrea Sorrentino book, then
I think Doc Shaner and like Dan Morrow, who's been doing the Batman and Superman World's Finest book. It's like this very kind of throwback, but such a clean way they do it. And I just like, it's just like you like a superhero book. I want all of my superhero books to look like this when they're not getting fucking weird.
And it is what's the word? I think Shazam lends itself great to Doc Shaner's art because you get these like obviously very big panel moments of transformation. You get the Shazam moment at least once an issue, and Shazam can just cook on those those moments. And I think he capitalizes really well. I hope these two team up again. I would be surprised if they do, but I would love to see Campbell and Shaner team up again. This was a good collaboration.
Me as well.
But anything else for the people, Corey?
No, nothing else from me.
I'll do a quick outro reminding you guys, as always, go check out the YouTube channel. Drop us a subscribe. Please do. Drop us a like and all that good stuff. If you're on there already, why don't you comment? I've been reading comments on YouTube, a thing I never thought I'd have to do. Well, because apparently it helps your interactions.
That's fair.
I don't know anything about this shit. I just like reading comic books and watching movies, so I'm just doing my best.
That's honestly why we do this, because we just like talking about it.
And don't forget, coming up, we've got Oscar coverage coming next week for all that good stuff for you. We're going to be doing, I'm writing some stuff up, so don't forget, check out the website nexttimeon.net, but we will also be talking about on the podcast. And we have our book club, The Nice House on the Lake by James Tynion IV coming up, and of course, Domino by Tony Scott, a movie that will live inside Corey's head rent-free for the rest of his life, and I'm really excited for that. But that's it for me. I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.